Hey guys, I'm Lou, and in today's video I am going to be talking about the best romance books that I read in 2020. With Valentine's Day having just passed and White Day coming up, I thought that it'd be a really good idea to talk about romance books in this season of romance. This will be a spoiler-free recommendation video, and please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I have 6 books that I'm going to be talking about today, and I'm going to be working my way up to the best romance book that I read in 2020. If you have any romance book recommendations, please tell me them down below, because I could always do with a good romance. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is The Flatshare by Beth. This book follows Tiffy and Leon, and they share a flat. They even share a bed, but they've never met. Tiffy needs a cheap flat fast, and Leon could do with the cash. Their friends think they're crazy, but it's the perfect solution. Leon occupies the bed whilst Tiffy is at work during the day, and she has the flat in the evening whilst Leon's on night shift. But with obsessive ex-boyfriends, demanding clients at work, wrongly imprisoned brothers, and the fact that they still haven't yet met, they're about to discover that if you want the perfect home, you should throw the rulebook out the window. Trigger warning in this book for emotional abuse from an ex. I was pleasantly surprised about this book when I was listening to the audiobook of it. I had very low expectations when I went into this book because I had heard some negative reviews about it, but I ended up really enjoying it. In fact, I ended up reading this book within 24 hours of purchasing it, and I read it during the weekend, and at that point in my life last year, I was hardly reading audiobooks during the weekend. It was mainly during the working week, so like that's a testament as to how much I enjoyed it. I went out of my usual routine just to read this book. I also really loved the narrators in the audiobook because there's a different narrator for Tiffy and Leon, and the person who voiced Leon had like a really good accent and voice. In regards to the plot, I thought that it was done incredibly well. It was fast-paced and there were a few twists and turns which I did not expect, but I enjoyed seeing the consequences of those actions. I also liked how the book dealt with Tiffy dealing with the after effects of coming out of an abusive relationship, emotionally abusive relationship. That person was very controlling of her life, and we meet her after she's left him and she's going through her emotions, and eventually she seeks professional help, and I liked how there was no judgment. It was really refreshing to see that and see her work through her feelings. The romance was also really cute. It's a spin on one of my favourite romance tropes of living together. This is definitely the first book that I read where the characters live together but don't meet for ages. The relationship, the romance, it sort of starts through post-it notes and letters throughout the flat, and then the characters eventually meet and it goes from there. I also really liked the characters. I loved Tiffy the most. She was hands down the best character and I related to her a lot. I also really enjoyed seeing the development of her character as she is growing throughout the book and seeing her rebuild herself after the previous relationship. I also liked Leon. I did think that he wasn't as well-rounded as Tiffy. Tiffy felt like she could be a real person, but Leon wasn't developed enough. But that is because we spend most of our time with Tiffy, so it was harder for us to get to know him. But with that being said, I still really liked him. I did really enjoy this book and I would definitely recommend it. I do want to note again that I listened to this book on audiobook, and I think your reading experience with this book can be determined whether or not you read it physically or through the audiobook, because for me the narrators really added to the story, added depth to the characters, and I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed this love story the most. The next book is You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. I was so intrigued about this book ever since I saw the cover. This was definitely a cover read for me, and then it did really help seal the deal with me finding out that it's set in the world of telenovelas. Plus it's marketed to fans of Helen Huang, and she is one of my all-time, maybe even my all-time favorite romance author, so anything she says I will definitely believe. After a messy public breakup, Jasmine Rodriguez finds her face splashed across the tabloids. When she returns to New York City to film a bilingual romantic comedy for the #1 streaming service, Jasmine figures her new leading lady plan should be easy enough to follow, until a casting shakeup pairs her with the gorgeous Ashton Suarez. After his last character was killed off, Ashton is worried that his career is dead too. Joining this new cast as a last-minute addition will give Ashton the chance to show off his acting to American audiences and Hollywood casting agents. To make it work, he'll need to generate smoking hot chemistry with his co-star Jasmine. But that's easier said than done, especially when a disastrous first impression smothers the embers of whatever sexual heat they might have had. With their careers on the line, Jasmine and Ashton agree to rehearse in private. But rehearsals lead to kissing, and the kissing leads to a behind-the-scenes romance worthy of a soap opera. While their on-screen performance improves, the media spotlight on Jasmine soon threatens to destroy her new image and expose Ashton's most closely guarded secret. The main focus of this book is the romance between Ashton and Jasmine. They are both attracted to one another, but they both hold back. The romance develops as the two get to know each other, and then they begin a secret romantic relationship. I love the part of the romance where they get together but keep it a secret from everyone. Secret romances are one of my all-time favorite romance tropes, and whilst I did not expect the R-rated romance scenes, I did enjoy reading them. However, I do want to note that my rating of this book was 4 out of 5 stars, and that rating is more based on how much I enjoyed this book as opposed to it being a romance masterpiece. This book does follow the typical romance book formula, so I do think it will be predictable to romance reader veterans. With that being said, I think what makes this book unique is the fame aspect, with both characters working within the niche of both Hollywood and telenovelas, and the Latinx representation. Now we move on from telenovelas to what would be the perfect K-drama, which is the romance book Temporary Wife Temptation by Jayci. The book follows Garrett Song, who is so close to taking the reins of his family's LA fashion empire, until his grandmother insists that he marry her chosen bride-to-be. To block her matchmaking, Garrett recruits Natalie to pose as his wife. She needs a fake spouse as badly as he does, but when passion burns down their chaste agreement, the flames could destroy everything. If you're a fan of fake dating, contract marriage, or a marriage of convenience, then this is the book for you. If you're a fan of Korean dramas, this is the book for you. I highly recommend this book to all of you though, because it will give you all that you want in a romance book and more. The book starts off as an office attraction because Natalie is working as the temporary HR manager in Garrett's LA fashion empire company, and Garrett is trying to become the CEO of that company. It starts off when Garrett has just moved from New York City to the LA office, and we see their interactions for the first time, and there's sexual tension there, and Natalie really wants to get sole custody of her niece because her sister and her brother-in-law died in a tragic accident, but her brother-in-law's parents are attempting to also take sole custody, and they want to move the niece to New York City, and Natalie doesn't want that. She wants to look after the niece, especially when her sister told her on her deathbed to look after the niece. It's quite deep stuff. To increase the chances of the courts awarding her custody of her niece, Natalie wants a promotion, and she wants this contract marriage because she wants to be seen as having a stable family. So that's the reason why she ends up agreeing to marriage, and it probably does help that he's rich and handsome. There's a lot of sizzling chemistry and attention, and it is definitely the perfect romance book for you to lose yourself in. The only downside is that this book is a really quick read. It's only slightly over 200 pages, and I think if this book was an additional 200 pages and it really developed the parts that I wanted to, then it would have been a 5 out of 5 star read for me. It was a 4.5 stars romance read, but that's still a really good romance read for me. It ended too quickly. I wanted more. Is that really a bad thing? I don't think so. I really love it because I was in a reading slump at the time I was reading this book, and I still managed to read over half of it in one sitting, which was unheard of at that time in my reading slump. That is a testament as to how good this book was. The next book is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I am on the hype train for this book. I completely understand why so many people love this book. Trigger warnings though for a past abusive relationship. Chloe Brown is a chronically ill computer geek with a goal, a plan, and a list. After almost dying, she's come up with 7 things to do to help her get a life. But it's not easy getting a life, even when you've written a step-by-step guide on how to do it correctly. What Chloe needs is a teacher, and she knows just the man for the job. Red is a handyman with tattoos, a motorcycle, and is more handsome than 10,000 Hollywood heartthrobs. He's also an artist who paints at night and hides his work in the light of day, which Chloe knows because she spies on him occasionally. But when she enlists Red in her mission to rebel, she learns things about him that no spy session could teach her, and why he never shows his art to anyone, and what really lies beneath his rough exterior. I really loved how the romance developed in this book. It goes from mutual dislike to tolerating each other's presence to liking each other as they get to know each other and get past their prejudices. I am an absolute sucker for the hate to love trope, and it was done so well in this book. This book would be a case study for that trope. I loved seeing how their relationship grew. I did like the ending of this book as well, but then there was like a miscommunication near the end, but luckily it resolved itself really quickly, otherwise I would have gotten really annoyed. It also helps that this book resolved it in a really cute way. I also really liked the representation of Chloe suffering from chronic pain. The characters in this book were great. I loved every aspect about Chloe, from her disregarding her chronic pain to save a cat from a tree who could easily get out of that tree, to her love of organising her life by lists. I think I do the same. I also really liked Red. I wish we got to see more of him in the art world because I was really intrigued about that aspect of the story. But I understand why we didn't, because it was more of Chloe's story than it was his. I am also really intrigued to read the sequels, and I want to see how Chloe is perceived by her sisters. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I can't wait to read the sequels. I do own the second book, Take a Hint, Dani Brown, but I've been holding off because I don't want to read that book and it be like another good book. I had a book hangover after this one, and I think I might have to wait until the third book on Evie Brown comes out before I can read the second book. Just so I have something else to read after I get sad that that book's finished. The last two books were 5 out of 5 star reads for me, and this is very rare for me to give romance books 5 out of 5 stars, so these books exceeded my expectations and more. The first book is The Switch by Beth O'Leary. 2020 was the year where Beth O'Leary became one of my favourite romance authors. I think she holds a special place in my heart because she's a British author and she writes about places in Britain, so I feel more of an affinity with her works. This book follows two characters. It follows Lena and her grandmother. Lena is ordered to take a 2-month sabbatical after blowing a presentation at work. She escapes to her grandmother's, Eileen's, house to rest. Eileen is newly single and just about to turn 80. She'd like a second chance at love, but her tiny Yorkshire village doesn't offer many eligible men. Once Lena learns of Eileen's romance predicament, she proposes a solution: a 2-month life swap. Eileen can live in London and look for love. Meanwhile, Lena will look after everything in rural Yorkshire, but with gossiping neighbours and difficult family dynamics to navigate up north, and trendy London flatmates and online dating to contend with. In the city, stepping into one another's shoes prove more difficult than either of them expected. Lena learns that a long-distance relationship isn't as romantic as she would hope it to be. And then there is the annoyingly perfect and distractingly handsome schoolteacher who keeps on showing up to outdo her actions to impress the local villagers. Back in London, Eileen is a huge hit with her new neighbours, but her perfect match could be nearer to home than she first thought. I honestly can't express how much I loved this book. This book was everything I needed and more. I'm so happy that I picked this book up when I did because it really lifted my spirits. It's just such a wholesome book. The main reason why I picked up this book was because I had just finished the Flatshare, and then a few days later The Switch was going to be published, so I pre-ordered it and I hoped for the best and I got the best. I also listened to this book on audiobook. The plot of this book is incredibly relatable, especially in the beginning if you've worked at a corporate job. I do want to say though, like, I don't really know if I'd ever want to work at Lena's company, because someone from HR in that company goes to Lena, "You look F-word terrible," and I was like, oh my gosh. Is that even professional for someone in HR to say that? The plus side is that Lena's work does give her 2 months paid leave. This book does deal with grief. Lena is also suffering from panic attacks in this book, and Lena's mother is suffering from depression. Lena is in a bad mental state when the book starts, and as she starts to heal and process her grief, she slowly starts to get better. One of my favourite aspects about this book was the dating life, specifically B's dating life. B is Lena's best friend and Eileen's love life. In the beginning with B, she is telling Lena all of her dating war stories, and I really related to some of the things that she ended up saying. I'm paraphrasing here, but B essentially says that she is on the brink of giving up dating and going through life as a single mother, as dating is worse than loneliness, as when you're alone there is no hope and you know where you stand, alone. As we have entered the world, so shall we leave it. Whereas dating is full of hope and is one painful exercise in discovering how disappointing other humans are. I just absolutely loved what she said. And with Eileen, oh boy, she really did live her best life. She had a better love life than I could ever dream of. One of my favourite scenes also happens to be one of the funniest, and it's when Eileen gets a unsolicited picture from a male depicting his downstairs. It was hilarious because Eileen had no idea what the picture was, and she was asking questions like, what am I supposed to do with this? What are we supposed to do with them? I also enjoyed the writing of this book. It's a bit of a hidden gem, but it's things like the banter between the friends and the family and just how real the people seemed. The writing made it seem like it could have been an autobiography set in a small village in rural Yorkshire. On top of that, the audiobook narrators for both Lena and Eileen were so great. I absolutely loved them and they really elevated the storytelling. With the characters, the star of the show has definitely got to be Eileen. She really took me by surprise and I love how she got more action than anybody else in this book, like combined, and just how she was playing the field. I also loved her superpower of like creating a community, especially in London. Do you know how hard that is? It's very hard. Another thing that I loved about Eileen's characters is how she believes that like writing lists and creating lists are ways to solve problems. I never related to a character more. I did like Lena, but I do think Eileen overshadows her, and Eileen is the star of the show. Nobody can take that from her. Nobody backs Eileen into a corner. Eileen definitely had the more interesting story. Lena's story is one more of growth and dealing with her grief. Lena also did have romance in her story, but I felt like that wasn't the main focus of her story. Overall, I really love this book, and this is the perfect slice of life novel which will make you feel so warm and happy inside. Now, are you ready for my favorite romance book of 2020? It's The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. Are you surprised about this? I'm surprised about this. I went into such a book hangover after reading this book. I went into a massive reading slump. Like nothing could beat this book for ages. It follows Vanessa, who is the personal assistant and housekeeper to Aiden, who is one of the biggest stars in the NFL. Vanessa quits her job with a plan, but she didn't expect Aiden to come knocking at her door, wanting her to come back to work for him. For 2 years, the man known as the Wall of Winnipeg couldn't find it within himself to tell her good morning or congratulate her on her birthday. Now he's asking her for the unthinkable, a fake marriage. This book appeared on my radar when Gabby from Gabby Reads recommended this book, I think like 3 years ago. It's been on my to be read list for just as long, and I am really glad that I finally picked up this book and read it. I really wish that I picked this book up sooner because this book was just so great. I am seriously contemplating buying all of the author's previous work and just going through them chronologically in order of publication. But I'm also afraid that no other books by this author will match up this one. This book had everything that I wanted in a romance and more. The beginning hooks you because it starts off with a scene where Vanessa and Aiden are interacting as personal assistant and employer. The point of view is from Vanessa's, so we get an insight into her thoughts and feelings, and that's what drew me in. I didn't get too far in my first sitting of reading this book, but in my second sitting I stayed up until 5 a.m. reading this book. This book completely messed up my sleeping schedule. Like, I had to finish the book before I went to bed. It was just that good. I just had to know what happened next and read it as quickly as possible. The romance is a slow burn one, and it's very slow paced, and this book does contain my beloved romance trope of a fake marriage. It also has an element of hate to love, or at least like miscommunication to love. When Vanessa first works for Aiden, she is convinced that he just tolerates her and that he doesn't truly appreciate her. But then during the fake marriage, she truly starts to understand him and understand his behavior, and it's just really cute. And then the epilogue is honestly the most adorable chapter I've ever read. I absolutely love the characterization of Vanessa and Aiden, and I have missed reading this story and reading about them because of just how close I felt like I got to them through the course of this book. I just love how flawed both of them was, because it made them seem real and it made their romance seem real. There's a side character called Zach as well. He's Aiden's roommate and Vanessa's friend. I really liked getting to know him and seeing his dynamic with Vanessa and seeing him basically be a permanent third wheel. I know the author has written another book with Zach as the main character, and I can't wait to read it. I highly recommend this book. It was exactly what I wanted in the romance book. It was exactly what I needed, and I can't wait to read more books by this author. So those books were the best romance books that I read in 2020. What were some of your favourite books? I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye!